surprise. Including a surprise to myself, if I'm honest. But I had some time, and I wanted to test something. Oh, cool. I love it when... You know when you check everything's working before you start, and then it decides not to work anyway? Bear with. Yeah, whatever. Really? It's just not working. Oh, of course it isn't. Right, bear with me. Let's try this again. Unplug it and replug it. Tried and true. Oh, new camera, you don't say. Right. Let's go here, which is broken. I know it is. Go here. Hey, that thing that was working seconds before I hit live. So, here's my plan. There is none. I just want to make armor, and I'm constantly changing my mind on how I want to do this. So, I'm going to make this up as I go along. And I think what I'm going to do, at least to begin with, is treat it as like a duct tape dummy, that kind of like sculpt on it ish. So in theory, what I end up with will be a pattern of sorts for the real thing. How well that goes, I can't say. And whether this is a good idea or a dumb idea, I also can't say. I'm inclined to err on the side of dumb, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't down for it, so oh well. So the last time I did one of these was actually on myself, and then trying to get it off was a nightmare. So doing this on a mannequin is way less irritating. And this mannequin is actually slightly bigger than I am. Slightly. So that should give me plenty of clearance where I need it later on. And I don't know how many of you guys have done this sort of thing before, but I always do a base cling film layer, even if I'm working on something that isn't me, just because it does make things a million times easier to get off later on, he says, as he struggles to put the cling film on in the first place. Ah well, whatever. It's better than doing nothing, you know? I've been so stuck on, like, the CAD side of things that it's been genuinely bumming me out. So I'm a physical kind of entity. I like to do things practically, and CAD is amazing, and I'll have to put it up at some point. I managed to create a really rough 3D model of the sword and hold it in AR, which was pretty nuts. So I got an idea of scale and what have you, and then concluded that I need to make it about 25% bigger than it currently is. Which sucks, but also, fair enough, really, it's fair enough. So yeah, it was great for that. But there is this kind of inherent frustration around, cool, that's nice, but I don't physically have a sword. And I would rather physically have a sword. But there's no point in starting it if it's going to be the wrong dimensions, so I totally accept the concept, and I have no issue. Not really. But it remains fairly frustrating. So now I'm here, making it up, in the hopes that maybe something will come of it. Who knows? I'm also not in the garage this morning. because I believe I've mentioned it before, but I do not live on my own. I live with my grandparents, and they are actually out of the house this morning for a few hours, and the garage is freezing cold. I can't feel my feet. So if I could not have to be out there for a bit, that would be awesome. I'll have to be out there eventually, but for now, fine, whatevs. So, I need to probably find the book and double check my references, but I'm fairly sure it ends quite high up anyway, so I'm not super phased with this as it stands. I might just do a bit around the base just to be vaguely sensible with it. I will at some point need to go and get my references, because I can boot them up on my laptop, but also it's down there. And it's just a little bit annoying having to go lean awkwardly over there rather than just having reference in front of me. So at some point, I'm likely to go and grab the book, just so I've got something that's a little easier to access. Getting caught on itself, which makes sense, but also, yeah, kind of annoying. Right, let's call it at that. At least then I shouldn't have tape stick to him. That's the main thing. Yeah, that's probably fine. It's better than nothing, so we'll roll with it. So, next phase is going to be the probably way too loud tape. I was trying to find... The last time I did this was with masking tape rather than duct tape, which is much nicer because you can draw on it. But I couldn't find any of my duct tape that was... masking tape, rather, that was wide enough. I did have a bunch. I don't know where it has since disappeared off to, but I'm a little peeved, to be honest. One time I actually need it, it is not there. Typical. Been sat in the same place for months, and I did everything up the other day thinking, oh yeah, this makes sense. But no. Apparently not. So, for anyone unfamiliar with what on earth is going on right now, basic idea is you build up a massive tape around form, you will eventually have something solid enough to stand on its own, more or less. And duct tape is perfect because it doesn't really rip a whole bunch. It's almost fabric rather than tape, so it's great for this. But it also is expensive and drawing on it is difficult, so if you can use masking tape, I don't see an issue with that. But this is the stronger stuff. It also loves to stick to itself and everything else, so yeah. Take it with a pinch of salt. But for the most part, it's pretty useful. I prefer doing strips rather than, like, wrapping it, because wrapping it kind of requires a straight line, otherwise it goes funky. and you get a load of creases, and that's kind of the opposite of what you actually want. So I would suggest doing this in strips and just being patient with it. And my patience seems to be kind of selective with stuff like this. Some days I can sit for hours and put tape on things. Other days I'm losing my mind. But I'm hoping today's one of the more patient days. We'll see how it goes. I think I might be okay just because I've waited for such a long time to have the ability to do this stuff again. Been stupid busy with work and various. I have been doing CAD stuff behind the scenes as well. Oh, this is a different kind of tape. Oh well. I have been doing CAD stuff as well. But like I said, it was just kind of maddening not really having anything to show for it a whole bunch. Like, of course, yeah, there is something to show for it, but nothing physical. These scissors are terrible. Great. Well, fine. It's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those mornings. It's gonna be one of those mornings. Do I just give up on the scissors? I feel like I give up on the scissors. Ah, I do. I do give up on the scissors. All right. Noted. Screw that. Screw the scissors. We ball. Main thing I'm hoping to get out of this today is something that I can work on. I'm not super fussed about how pristine it is. As long as it's functional, I'm genuinely unbothered at this point. I just need something. Because time eludes me, and my perception of time is historically terrible. So I need to be a little bit sensible with it, to be honest. I usually start these by doing like a base sort of wireframe type thing, because having stuff overlap at various angles is going to be kind of sort of critical to how well this works. It's a bit like if you're building a Lego tower and you use the same size blocks and you just stack them on top of each other, it's not going to hold. You got to overlap stuff. Same premise, different shtick. I should probably try and be a little quicker with this. Slapdash, yes, but at least it's quick. Now, I am debating trying to sort of sculpt on top of this as I'm going, because there are certain forms and shapes that I want, and I'm thinking I more or less mold them onto this, I can then build on top after the fact. Because at this point, I'm basically planning to build stuff on top of the mannequin. My current idea being, if I were to, well, I'm thinking use EVA foam as the basics, and then foam clay or something to that effect for detail. Then I can carve into it and all sorts, but it stays pretty even. Because originally I wanted to kind of like actually sculpt it, like plasticine. Trouble is, me and symmetry aren't friends, and I don't think I'd be able to keep things as even as I'd want to. So if I start with foam, then I can have the foam to be at least roughly the same size and shape. And if I want to add stuff on top of that after the fact, fine. That seems a little more feasible. Please don't stick to me. As I say, plan is basically to have this remain on Boris. My nan's naming, I just decided not to question it. Plan is to have this remain on Boris while I figure out actually designing the armor itself. At least then I've got something I'm working with. I can just kind of hang around and vibe. Because my time is going to be spent in various places and distributed pretty unevenly between work and what I actually want to be doing with my time. So at least I can just kind of drop this and come back to it, you know? Kind of hard to see because it's all black. Which I appreciate. And I apologise. As I say, couldn't find the masking tape and decided, you know what? Instead of spending hours looking for specific tape, why don't I just use what I already have? Wouldn't that make more sense? The answer was yes. So here I am. I will say, working to a time constraint tends to be better for me as far as being sensible with my productivity. So I've got a tendency to overcomplicate stuff and spend longer on things than I should be. So limiting myself to a couple hours at a time, probably not a bad play. Also gives me time to think about what I've already done and whether it was actually the right move. Because it's not always the case. Like with the sword, I didn't want to jump straight into it because there was every chance that the scaling wasn't quite right, which it wasn't. So now I know. I still got to check some angles before I know for realsies exactly what I'm working with. Okay. I think I'm going to do the basics, fill in the gaps, then I'm going to start considering what shapes I actually want to have on here. Because then I'll probably cut those out of foam and tape them to this. So that I'm working from the basic shape I actually want for the end thing. And I'd originally thought about having the camera behind me, but I didn't have anything cool enough, so that's why I'm at an awkward angle, and that's why it's hard to see anything. Because I thought this through, clearly. I thought it through enough to come to the conclusion that I don't have the time to source anything here. It was all very ad hoc, pretty last minute. I'm just kind of taking the opportunity sort of thing, you know? And I'm not going to do my usual and say, oh, it's fine though, I'll probably be back later, because so far that hasn't been the case. As much as I mean it at the time, so I'm just not going to get anyone's hopes up. It's like, I know that as far as streaming goes, I'd do a lot better if I had a consistent schedule. Yeah, thing is, I don't have one of those at all anyway. So, kinda really hard to pin anything down when that just isn't something that exists at the baseline, you know? So at the minute, it's just very, very random and totally sporadic. And hey, if it happens, then great. If it doesn't, then whoops, and I apologize, but also, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Because shit happens, and I'm usually occupied with various things do tend to just kind of get dropped on me. So I then have to go through my priorities. I got lists. I got lists and lists and lists on my phone of things that I have to do before I'm allowed to do the things I want to be doing. And every time I clear that list, something ends up being added to it. Whether it's the doctors mucking up my meds, or HMRC changing my tax code, that's been a fun one. Or being charged for company benefits that I never opted in for and never actually received. You know, all that good stuff that I then have to deal with as a matter of relative urgency. And it sucks. But there's not a whole lot I can do to prevent stuff like that. So I just kind of have to take it as it comes, you know? Wildly frustrating, yes. But kind of just ends up being a case of, well, I suppose I'll roll my sleeves up and contend with this then. The sooner it's done and out the way, the sooner I can do the things I want to be doing with my time. It's kind of my approach to a lot of things at the minute. Especially work. We'll see. We'll see. I've got some stuff lined up. And hopefully something might actually come of it. It'd be pretty cool if it did. But can't disclose anything yet. So, you know. Not least because I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. Okay. Progress is being made. It's just slow. I'm still debating whether I'm going to need the book for this. I should at least go and get my notebook. That's got a bunch of sketches in it that are going to be helpful. been thinking about a lot of different ways that I can actually make this final thing. And the one I'm partial to at the minute is trying to figure out a way of having various plates overlapping one another. Kinda like samurai armor, but also kinda like a crab shell. I don't know. I'll see. But I think I need to stop using those scissors. I think that'll end up being ideal, because I don't want it to be super restricting as far as moving around is concerned. But I also have a fairly set design for everything. So I kind of got to balance up, you know, what I'm going to end up sacrificing if I want to achieve exactly what I've drawn from the off. Because realistically, if I did a samurai sort of thing, it would be very cool. It's not what I want to do. Like, it's also one of those things, I could totally justify it. Because Oni Link is one of the titles for the character, right? Fierce Deity, yes, but also Oni Link. So I can totally get away with leaning in to the sort of Japan-inspired side of it. But I don't want to. I don't want to, so I'm gonna probably not. You know, it doesn't matter whether it would make my life easier. It's not how I envision the thing. So I don't want to do it. Who knows? I may wind up eating those words. But my stubbornness, historically, has served me pretty well. So I'm inclined to say I'll probably stick to my guns on it. Out of spite, if little else. Cool, outer tape as well. Yes, we're down to this one. Does this one rip as well? It does. Good, okay. In fairness, I've filled in most of the gaps at this point. And because I'm not looking at this as like a standalone thing, I'm not totally bothered by how much it overlaps in places. It's more just a sort of nice, tight base to work on. Because I could have just sculpted stuff directly onto Boris, but I didn't want to. I want to keep him reasonably clean. Having said that, he does have a very faded Astarian back scar pattern on him, because I had the Wave Mother robe on Boris when I was stenciling that on to the net on the back. So, but that's just kind of cool. I like that that's there. It's a little reminder of the stupid shit I've done. But I don't want to get him covered in like glue and muck and yeah. So I'd rather do things this way anyway. Okay. Right, probably good enough for my purposes. Probably. I don't really want to cover up the arm sockets because that's going to be an easy way of getting in to take this all off after the fact. So now I'm inclined to have a look at my references. Let me go get my book. Let me go get both my books. Because one of them's got my sketches in it, and the other one's got the official artwork in it. Right. Sketchbook, yes. Pretty sure. Yeah, it's under here. Okay. Right. Let me precariously step around the light box and the step ladder with the webcam on it. Have a look at some stuff. So, how charged is my phone? Charged enough. Bring it over to be more in view. Cool. Right. So, sketchbook-wise, where is my... There we go. Right. So, that and that. Okay, that gives me a pretty good idea. Then, I've still got this beautiful bit of kit. Art and Artifacts. In pretty good nick, actually. Considering it's a few years old. Bookmarked to oblivion from last time I had a look at it. So, let's see what's what. What is this one? This is the poster. Which is cool, but it's also not what I'm going for. I want the original concept art. Because that's what I was initially taken with. Yeah. Okay. So, I am now going to use... No. Come on. Kind of. There we go. This. I'm going to use this as my guide for how I approach this. So, something that I really like about this as a design. Holding up the book's going to be a pain in the ass, but I'll try and do it anyway. Something that I want to try and replicate with this is... I don't know how easy it is to see, probably not even slightly, but in here, the lats going into the chest, they stand away, right? It's not on the same level as the rest of the torso. It's kind of like it's sat on top. So I'm very much interested in replicating that. Actually, I might be able to show it better in what I drew in my sketchbook. There we go. You can kind of see what I mean, right? So this chest piece is kind of raised, and then the sort of lat bit is also standing away from the rest of it. So I want to do that because I think that looks really cool. In order to do that, I am going to basically make it up. If I nick some paper, just some plain paper. That's the only trouble when I'm not working from the garage. Finding random stuff. To varying degrees of success. So far, not a whole bunch. Do I do that, or do I use this? Would it be easier to do it with this? Probably not, to be fair. Probably not. Right, whatever. Right, let me go. Let me go find some paper. Welcome to chaos. I wasn't joking. I know I've been over it a bunch at this point, but this is most of what I end up doing when I'm making stuff. Just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if any of it sticks. And again, I know I've been over it a whole bunch, but I think it is pretty important to show that this is the process, so that when other people are making things, they don't go, ah, I'm bad at this. No, no, no. No, 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 we're all bad at this. It just shouldn't stop us, you know? And those of us that do end up making stuff have just fought through the pain. That's it. That's the only difference. Beyond that, there is no separation. Right. So, if I just lay that on there. I say that is roughly the middle. And then, where's the top? Sort of, top of it sort of here-ish. Under is sort of here-ish. That. And then top. Top. Way up there. Under. Just there. And then up. That's pretty close to the neck, so up about there. And let's cut it off, say, well, wherever the arm socket ends up being, which is around there, I guess. Alright, so arm is in there. That comes all the way down and round, fair cop. Goes all the way up there, fair enough. So, to that end, if I were to just cut out a solid piece, what would that look like? And if I do it without considering the under part, I just look at the top for now. It's going to have to end up being a 3D shape anyway. So, you know, whatevs. Right. Not bad. Not bad, actually. That's pretty decent. And obviously, I have to consider the fact that where everything sits, cutoff is going to be about there. Well, really, it does go up to that point. Out there. So, yeah. That. Okay. That is then a piece. Okay. That's the left-hand side, which is the one with the funky cut in it. But I don't really want to do that yet. I kind of want to get them same. So when I did something similar before, I actually made kind of like a slip over thing. And it was for Samus way back when I was like 16, I think. I don't want to think about the fact that that's 11 years ago, but it was. And when I did that, it was like one solid piece. that I just cut a hole in for my head and sort of slid over, and it had the top chest part and, like, the jetpack bit. And I'm thinking, this is gonna be a similar thing. That's what I'm thinking. Because I want it to be separate to the midsection anyway, but that gives me a good idea. So if I say that plus what? Needs to be two of these. So if I flip it, draw another one, cut another one, see what happens. That's going to be the first step. If I can get my hands to work. That's the only downside with the cold weather. Functionality of my hands. Now the beauty of this is if I make a paper thing first, I can cut it and muck about with it to my heart's content until I have something vaguely acceptable. Then I will muck around with the foam and see if I can make something sensible from it. So let's do this to start with. And it'll be these two joined down the middle. That. Ideally, I'd cut them both at the same time so they'd actually be even. But I didn't really know that this was going to work anyway, so I'm willing to forgive myself on that front. And now I just want to know whether this is too wide. It's probably okay, actually. It's probably okay. So if I say that's alright, what I want to do then is sit that roughly in the middle, and then have a look at how this sits. Because I'm going to want to take that off around there. Because it kind of goes up into more of a point from there. So I'll shave this off. I suppose it's kind of just sculpting with paper at this point. It'll be like that for a little while. Again, that has to sit central. If it does, how does that look? Ah, okay. That is helpful. So, off a little bit more. I think I'm also going to do a little bit more up there. Okay. That's better. I'm more okay with that. I think it needs to be at kind of an angle to work better. That's the thing. If it's meant to be straight, it's not the worst, actually. Not the worst. Okay. Let me cook. Let me see if that ends up being a thing. Works. I don't know. It could be a mess and I'll hate it. Right. Let's see if I can be kind of smart about it this time and cut out 2 at once. And in theory, they'll both be even. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm going to keep it slightly longer at the end just because I get the feeling it might be beneficial. So, if I was looking at doing that like that, I tape them along the middle for now. There is a gap. That's the thing. There is a gap in the real thing. But for now, I'm going to be able to see what I'm doing a lot better if I treat it as one piece. Could I have picked any worse masking tape? I don't know that I could. As far as shaping them goes, what I'm inclined to say is I might mess with that a bit first. So if I put them back together, have a quick gander at my references, and then kind of make it up a little bit as I go along. So if I were to say, take off that much, then kind of, yeah, it's a dip, but also kind of flattens out a fair bit. If I'm doing this Twilight Princess inspired, I kind of want to have more angles in it. So that works anyway. If I say I did that, also take a much straighter line down there. That already looks a lot nicer. It's still too big. Hard to tell. What I think I will do is, I think, try to lay that one like that. What I do want to do is take out a chunk for the arm. Probably something like that. And then take it up from there. So, let's say I took it from here, in like that, and out and round like that. That looks better. And if I open it out, how do they look side by side? Considerably better. Okay. Not bad. Not bad at all. Don't mind that. Okay. That seems pretty okay. So, I think what I can then do is try and look at the back according to my references. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. What other references am I looking at? Ah, okay, that was the Twilight Princess, which means this is probably also, yeah, okay. I kind of only really have this one and a bunch of statues, which is fine. But that's pretty okay, really, I think. So for the sake of being able to see what I'm doing with my life, let's say the middle one here, roughly there. Roughly there. Again, kind of really hard to see on camera. That looks pretty okay to me, to be honest. Might end up having to make them slightly bigger. But for now, I'm not that phased. This was unhelpful. Okay. Let's say that was the one that had the moon on it. So for the sake of being able to see what I'm doing with my life, I whack this back on here for a minute. I can say it would be on there like that. To sort of there-ish. Then I just have to kind of sort of make it up slightly-ish on the way back round, which is fine. I can always find a way of doing this more accurately later on. There's more just so I know which side is which, to be honest. Good enough. So I then know that side is that. Definitely make that smaller. But you don't know till you try. And this side was the triangle. I think if I make them smaller, they'll look cooler. But for now, I can at least identify which way up everything goes. So that and that, there and there. Okay. Potentially. It'd still be a horrible mess. But potentially, that is the way of approaching the thing. So, I would then say what I need to do is figure out how I'm going to approach the, I suppose, underhang? I suppose that's what I'd call it. So if I have a look at my massive roll of foam and see what I've actually got to muck around with in here, because realistically, I don't know. I've not been at this since King Crimson. Is this its own piece? Can't tell. Might be, you know. Yeah, it is. Okay. Right. So what have I actually got to play with here? Ah, okay. So I wanted to find a bit that I'd already cut into in the past, because I hate wasting anything ever. So I'm going to cut all of this from stuff that I've cut into previously to make sure that I'm not wasting anything. I'll deal with those later. Probably. Film I don't need anymore. Book I will need. Scissors I will need now that I'm dealing with foam and paper. Paper I will need. Mark is fairly important. Let's try and clear some space. I didn't bring in my cutting mat because I'm not planning to do anything that is important. I'm only really looking to test stuff. So, to that end, let's say I take one of these. And I pour it out onto foam. Reasonably carefully. So even if I want to be slapdash, I kind of can't make myself. As much as I want to be quick with all of this, like, I have no choice. I have to do this fairly methodically. Minimal waste, please and thank you. As I said, this is only... It's a sketch model, right? It's a sketch model. I'm not looking to do this as the final piece. It's just so I can see whether anything that I'm planning to do is actually going to work. So if that's on there, I'm going to want to have a bit that goes underneath. Really, it would just be a strip. Just have to cut it at an angle at the end, which is not a big deal, realistically. Out of interest. Say I wanted it to be... Probably be able to see better if I do it that way. That's the only trouble when it's been rolled up for a while. Right. That seems too thick. It's hard to know. Maybe it just needs to be at more of an angle, and then it'll look less weird. Then that's complicating things unnecessarily, so maybe I won't do that. What if I were to take a strip? Didn't mean to pop into the mic. Just thinking out loud. Right. That is hideously uneven. Doesn't matter a whole bunch. Point is, will that work without having a whole lot done to it? The answer is yes, it's just a curve. Easy. Easy clap. Will that be too deep? That's going on there. That. This goes underneath. So I would say probably too deep. So let's say I were to shave off a little bit. Like that. Is that any better? That. That. All the way around. That seems considerably better. And bevel it all after the fact anyway, so that's fine. Okay. Interesting. Maybe I have to see better if I take it from the side that's actually curving. That on there like that. Okay. That seems not terrible. Yeah, that seems alright. So let's say that and that is probably fine. Then what I kind of want to do is see how far back I need to take straps for it. So if I have to say that's right there on that edge, let's use some stuff that I ended up binning earlier. Let's say, where do I want to take it? I say, actually I can be smart about this. I match that up that edge. It's going to be annoying if I do that. Okay. Let's just do that. That's okay enough. So if I say that's the edge of the foam, assuming I actually get this on straight, and relatively, and let's say I took it, needs to be up relatively high is the thing, so it kind of needs to stay up here somewhere. Go along like that. And then if I say that's roughly the arm hole, then on there like that. Cool. Ish. Very, very ish. But ish is better than not at all. You know what would have helped? If I'd taped this on here. Yeah, that would have been a real good idea. So what I think I need to do with this is have it thinner in here, thicker going out. I think that's going to look way less weird. So what I'm actually going to do is Put my money where my mouth is. Find roughly where this should sit. Probably about there. That on there. Enough. Then, look at this. How this sits. See, I think that needs to come up higher, but that's fine, because this is made from scraps anyway. So, what I can then do is say, actually, I want to have this come out there flatter. That. And then based on what I've drawn at the back, which isn't a whole bunch, because I don't think it's super visible, maybe I'll take that in slightly closer. Slightly closer. Let's do that to start with. That's pretty okay. Now, out of interest, if I were to look at my... Come on. If I were to look at my research document for this. Let's see. Right, references. Yeah, it doesn't show me a whole bunch. Not really. No, I don't want to view it as a presentation. Good grief. Yeah, and then that's different. That is fine, because it means that I've got quite a lot of leeway as to how I present this. So what I'd like to do, in fairness, is make something shoulder bladey anyway. So that, in of itself, is not the worst thing in the world. But I will say, for the sake of strappy things, it might be sensible to end it further up. I don't know, though. I don't hate that. Trouble is if it's flat, then I just won't make it flat. Fine. Not bad. I don't mind that as it stands. I think creative license is allowed in this instance anyway. So then this will be the right-hand side. So that means this then joins that, and that makes that. Not bad. Not bad. This needs to be changed slightly so that it starts thin and becomes thicker. Yeah. It needs to end up more of a squared off triangle, I think. That's what I think. Out of interest, if I were to take one of my offcuts from earlier, how would it end up sitting? That's a triangle. It's on there like that. Comes around. Oh yeah, that's way nicer. Holy crap, yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Wicked. So let's say I wanted to have this piece sat on here. Do about that. What I can then do is take some of my scraps from earlier, again, because I hate wasting stuff. And let's say that's going to be too thick. What I can do is take off the bulk of it because it's going to get annoying. Stick that in there. It starts from about that and then wraps around like that. Okay. Okay. Slightly. Okay. Let's call it about here. About here. Yoink. Slice that off. I know that I'm going to have to trim this down already. That's a good thing. I did it like that. I'm going to trace where that meets with the edge of the top piece of the fan. To about there. And I'm going to try and cut something makes a fairly even triangle sort of thing. And in theory, yes, much better. Much better. Right. All I would then want to do is take off this little bit up here. Did that. Then that sits in there, in under there. Wahey. Then of course you've got to consider material thicknesses and remove that after the fact, but as drafts go, I don't hate it. And that's saying a lot these days. Or do I want to take this? I think I want to take this at an angle. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Don't need that bit. And then I think, why did I leave that tape measure? I had it earlier. Pretty sure it's only a couple of mil thick. We got. Oh no, okay. It's about what, 3, 4? I think 4 if I was being generous. Geez, actually, maybe 5. We'll call it 5. Call it 5, play it safe. So, I'm going to say that's the top. So this is the left. Then move 5 mil. Material thickness. Cool. Okay. Now I know that if I take 5 mil off the top of this piece and slide another bit in under there, and it'll be pretty much exactly what I want it to be. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay. As far as the back goes, it gets a little bit awkward because there's not a whole lot in the way of official reference for that. Not that I've found, at least. So, I might exercise creative license on that front. but at least I have the basis for what I want out of this. So, considering this is a sketch model, I may as well tape some stuff together, cut some things, and make the rest of that piece. So let's move some of my crud out the way. Scraps of paper, yada yada. What is the time? Okay, I got a little bit of time. I've got enough time to faff, so I'll roll with that. That's long enough to be annoying. So let's try and find an awkward spot that I can take advantage of. Something around here should be okay. Then if it's on a curve, I need to be careful. It's on a curve up like that. So if I flip it, then it should curve where I actually want it to. In theory. We'll see. Let's say I did it like this. And tried to conserve as much material as possible. I'm amazed that all of this has lasted for as long as it has, to be fair. I've had this for a while. I've just not had cause to bust it out. Wave Mother didn't actually use any of it, so... And as cool as 3D printing is and was, I did chronically miss faffing with foam. It was fun kind of finessing all the pieces of the chain and what have you. And the pauldrons were a nightmare, but I loved what they came out looking like. I don't know, there's something about I suppose the carnage of foam smithing that I just missed. So it's nice to be back into it. Even if it is just for a sketch model. So I forgot to take off 5mm. I'm a genius. So let's go ahead and just use this as a means of facilitating that. This. That. And this. That. This. Cool, well that's super uneven. Alright, guess I'm making it up. It would be a lot easier if I could be bothered to, I don't know, right? If I could be bothered to actually measure it, but I can't. So I shall now contend with the consequences of that and see what happens. I might just get away with it. Well, hey, I'd say. Yeah, alright. Alright, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like how that's looking. So I'm going to tape that to this. I just undo that one for a second. Undo this one for a second. I can do the top bit first. Let's do this bit first. That goes on there. Then This goes under here. That. Goes under there like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a whole bunch. Tape. Please and thank you. Now I need to put that back where it was. Try and lift this away. For some reason it's taken root. Is only slightly really unhelpful. Whatever, so let's do it from the tape side. This under here. Fairness, I can just use this for that anyway. So it's whatever. That's a good measure. Four. Right, not bad, not bad. Pretty okay. And this needs to have a little bit in this gap anyway. How much is a little bit? Potentially this, in fairness. Potentially this. Yeah. Yeah, that seems fine, actually. That seems fine. So, I say I give this one of these and tape some more stuff. And whack that in under here. Trying to remember which way I cut it originally. That looks more like it. That in like that. Same up top. That. Cool. Okay. So that then gives that. All that would actually end up being is the equivalent of a double layer, which is handy. Tape some more stuff. That. Go a little bit further along as well. Trying to do this and also show the camera is really interesting. There you go. You can see what I'm doing, right? This is coming out okay, I think. Kinda. You get the gist. This is the premise. It's just material thickness. That's where I'm at the minute. And like I said earlier, my plan was very much just to sculpt onto a thing. Ah, that's pretty cool. And this needs to be chopped off. So probably at an angle. What angle is the question? I want it to go up, I want it to go down, go down. It needs to go down because that's where the arm's at. Makes sense. Then that, and that wants to join onto it, so maybe that goes up, not down. Maybe that goes up. That. And join on there. And go up along that way. Kind of. Let's make that less steep. Let's see what happens. Better. Yeah, that's better. Question is, where do I taper it off to? That's on there like that. I think this has to taper off pretty soon, actually. Does it, though? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Might be okay. What I think I'll do is that. Just a little bit extra off. I think that might make all the difference. I won't know until I tape it, so I'll tape it. I will attempt to tape it. Out there. Let's just say I did this. How do I do it into that, or do I do it past? I think past. Past that and onto here. How does that then look? So that fits pretty nicely in there. This, for me, sticks out too much still. As much as I enjoy it, it sticks out too much. So, needs to taper in a lot sooner. Something more akin to that, I think. That seems better. It feels like it's fallen way too low, though. I mean, have I even tried it on myself yet? I haven't. Okay. It's not bad. You can't really see, but I'm trying to keep it fairly even. You can kind of sort of see-ish, maybe. Pretty okay. There's a massive table in the way, so I can't get to the webcam properly. But you can see what I'm doing. I'm building up the edges to make this kind of neat little boxy looking thing. And that's where I'm at currently. Neat little boxes. Which I'm actually not too mad at. Doesn't look too shabby. Not in the grand scheme of things. I think if I'm settling for material thickness as kind of the baseline. Well, double, I should say. It's just a case of assembling more little bits and pieces to account for that, which is fine. As long as they exist. Which they don't do a whole bunch. Legs. Just casually checking the messages, don't mind me. Okay. Right. Have more strips here. I can cut another one to make that. That then accounts for that. Do I have any that aren't so long? Because I feel like I'm wasting them otherwise. I know, wasting scraps, but also, yes, wasting scraps. It's not too thick. I mean, yeah, I could cut it, but also, do I want to particularly? No. Okay, alright, in fairness, I can do this one like this. I think. Yeah, I can do this one like this. I cut it there. And I can trim the excess off in a second. Because ideally, what I would like to do is make all of these separate pieces out of fiberglass eventually. That's what I'd like to do. Because foam is great and I love it and I will always love it. But it's warm. It's really, really warm to wear. And I remember very distinctly when I made Samus, I was dripping the whole time that I was wearing this suit. And that wasn't even like thick foam. That was like craft foam because I was still in school and didn't have a job. So it was very much a sort of scavenged cosplay. But I literally had like a film of sweat on these armor pieces when I came to take them off. So I'm not looking to do that again. It was hideously unpleasant, and how I survived, I'm not entirely sure. But the idea is fiberglass. If I make individual pieces, I can have them overlapping, and the idea would be just kind of strap all the pieces on separately, I suppose. That's the aim. That's fine. I can leave that as it is for now because that'll be a nice joining point for the next piece. So that works. That works. Okay. So this was useful. I'll leave that with the chest piece patterns. Then I can eventually cut grips. But then if I'm only doing that anyway, I'll think about it. Think about it. I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do with all this, but there will be a little bit of thought that has to go into it as of yet. That seems pretty okay. That seems pretty okay. Then I just have to make another one. Yeah. Just have to make another one. So I label everything. If I label this as the, well, I'll do it on the inside just in case. Label that as the right. Then, let's say I called this right, then right, left, under, it should be right, right, shouldn't it? Yeah, right, right, under, then, or upper under, I suppose, then right, right, lower under, then all these little bits don't really matter because they're only 5mm thick and whatever, so it's mainly those 3 components. So, in theory, I should then be able to replicate that to the other side. I just get rid of some of the random crap that's kicking about before I do so. Right. That's the right. Awesome. Cool. Not mad at that at all. So if I want to do the left, I need to take the pattern and think. If it's curving and I want to do the left, it needs to be like that when it's finished, which means it's like this on here. Okay. Yeah, that should be fine. That should be fine. Yoink. And I shall draw around the pattern. This. Then scissors and cut it out. Okay. Ah, that is then that side. Epic and cool. So, if I then take my, over here, under pattern, that's for the left, when it's done it's going to curve like that. So actually, yes, this one is the right way round. How I want it. So I remember I did it face down last time. I have this thing, like I can't visualize rotating stuff or like altering its position. Like I have to physically do the thing or I cannot picture it for the life of me. So I've been caught out many a time by things being the wrong way round or inside out or what have you. And it's wildly frustrating. And I have just remembered that I need to consider the 5mm difference when I'm cutting this out, which is fine, because I can actually kind of do that before I cut it this time. So that's okay. That's the top, it's from this bit. So, material thickness, U. Actually, I could do this with a thinner bit. And then just do little markers. There. Easier to do it from this side. It's way more even last time I did that. Alright, good for me. So, to that end, I'm going to cut out the whole thing first. I don't want to leave any pen lines on foam that I end up rolling up again. Just don't trust it. Okay. And slicey slice. Follow the dotted line. Ish. Ooh. In theory, I then put this up here, wrap that around there. Good shit. That looks okay to me. So, tape. Where did I put the tape? It's here. Why is this still on here? Okay, well, I can use some of this. That's fine. I can definitely use some of that. Right. Let's put this on here. Phone keeps buzzing, and it's literally nothing. It's just Snapchat being like, oh, do you remember this many years ago you were doing this thing? I don't care. Why is that worthy of a notification? Go away. And I feel like that's a fairly recent thing as well. Like, it never used to harass me with stuff like that. Don't know why it's decided now is the time to bother me. Whatever, I guess. There's a little bit of overhang, but that's fine. That's not a bad thing. Means I can slice it off about there-ish. Maybe slightly. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's way better. Cool. Alright, that then deals with that. This bit was made up. So, I'm kinda gonna have to make it up again. Scraps. I don't think I'm gonna have any scraps that work for that because it's a fairly specific piece. So I may wind up. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I could potentially build something out of these. And I want that to be the flat bit. So it's not worth the faff. It's not worth the faff. I may as well just cut a little bit of something from somewhere. And in order to do so, I'm actually going to untape some of this and record the patterns that I'm using. Because it's going to be way more useful if I do it that way. So, is it worth taking a longer bit of paper? Maybe. Maybe it will be. Then I can get the whole of this bit in. So let's say I took off this from here. And that bit there. Come on. Dude, masking tape, why is it this friggin' strong? Okay. And I kind of need to keep all of these bits attached. They're part of one thing. So, I then say, take it from what? Around here, maybe? That's slightly lower, so I've got a little bit more room to mess around. Until about there. I will just make an actual pattern for this, because I think that's going to be the way to play it. And then that was for there, which means that is like that. This is where I get confused. So, okay. Knowing this, that makes this ridge the top, which means that was like that. This is the top. So that's the top. That's all I need to know. All I need to know. And one of these. Fairly straight, except it totally isn't. And that then connects up and under there. That's the top. This is the side. Cool. That is then the side connection. Cool. Okay. Right. Then I can just make the thing from that for the other one. And just stick these bits back together. I've never actually made a sketch model before. I've kind of just always jumped into it. I can see why people would do this. It's really helpful. I don't know, I think I've always just looked at it as like a waste of time, you know? It's like making a toile for a sewing project. That I still believe to be a waste of time. Because making a dress out of calico versus something out of satin or whatever, vastly different. Vastly different. So I just don't think that tells you anything, personally. Whereas this is like actually kind of useful for getting the size of stuff. Higher, that's why. Yeah, that's better. Okay. That seems pretty okay. So if I've got that bit done, I then have this. Do I have any scraps that I can make this out of? I'm sure I must do. Nearly, but not quite. Okay, fine. Fine, so be it. I will muck about, grab something from here instead. If it's curving like that, I need to be careful and make sure that it's curving the way I want it to. So let's say I did that. Screw it, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, and I'm going to choose to believe it doesn't matter. I think this will be the right. I'm expecting to be proven wrong, but I think this will be the right way around. By the time it gets to down here, it just becomes a lie, so fine, whatever. I can deal with that later. Okay. In theory, this should then connect to this in some capacity. Yeah, the flat bit is the top bit, which makes complete sense. And that's fine. So I connect that. That kind of needs to be like that, is the annoying thing. Unless I do that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, okay. That is fine. Stick this on top of here. That. And then if I gotta mess with it later, I gotta mess with it later. Whatever. Good enough for now. Fine. Fine. I will just mess with things later on. That on there. That. That on that. That. And that on here with this. Cool. Okay. Then it's only the 5mm thickness that we actually need. I should have a bunch of scraps that I can use for this. That one seems long enough. And not quite. Not quite. Does it really matter, though? Probably not. Probably doesn't actually matter. Yeah, it doesn't actually matter. It's a sketch model. Who cares? Who cares? It's fine. It's just so I get an idea of overall thickness. So that works. And that also works. Works well enough, frankly. That seems fine. Still. This one then joins it. And then together it seems pretty okay. Let's see what other scraps I've got to add to this. What about you? You seem pretty useful. I reckon I can split you in half. You can use both halves. Yeah, right, okay. So I can stick one in there. That. See, that's more... When I come to do the thickness of like the insides for the final thing, it's probably going to be less like that and more like that, right? Like, for now, I have scraps. Well, hey, good for me. But when it comes to doing the main thing, I'm going to be a little more selective with how I handle it all. Currently, unbothered. But eventually, yeah, I will have to be a little more savvy with it. Because if I want to do this in fiberglass, which I do, then I want to make sure that whatever I end up putting on the inside is sensible. And I will have to consider how to make that a reality nearer the time. That is a future me problem. And I will say that a lot. Okay. I now have 2 things that can sit out there. Seems not too bad. Not too bad. Question is, do I like the way everything looks on me? Now, there is a mirror over here that I can check in, so you'll have to bear with me. See, looking at it on me, as far as like the chest size, that looks fine and makes sense. As far as like where the neckline is though, that's where it becomes an issue. The neckline is definitely too low on me. Like the main chest shape, as far as width goes, looks to be pretty okay. But the neckline looks too low. So I think I need to raise it up a bit, which I wasn't going to know until I tested it. So that's fine. So, how do I approach this? That is right on the edge of that. Yeah. Definitely feels too low. Okay, but the rest of it seems pretty not too bad. That's a lie. I want to take this in as well. Okay. Right, where's my pen? I know what I want to do. I want to take... Right. See, that looks about right. Where's my actual chest at? It's about here. This is all very well, except it cuts into my arms. So, I need to take away all the way down here. About, really, all of that needs to go. My throat is really gummy for no reason. Probably because I'm not used to muttering this much. Right, take that away. Then it needs to be built up again up here. So in fairness, if I'm taking that, yeah, that looks alright. That looks alright. Take that away. Then up here definitely needs to be built back up. So, yeah. Let's do it based on that. So, holding it up to myself in the mirror, there is an entire line that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to unpin these for a bit, and I'm going to slice in here. This is fairly straight, I think. Slice in here, and take off a chunk up to there. And I want to build this back up again. So I'm going to take this off, and this, and this. That. I want to add a bit. How much do I want to add? How much do I want to add? Do I want to make it up? A little bit. So let's say I did. Let's say I made it up, and let's say I added on. Need to consider the curve in it as well. It'll have to be this way around. Let's say I added on to here about straight to it about that. That's that. Currently, I want to add on roughly a fair old chunk. Let's say roughly that. I can always trim it down afterwards. So if I make it much bigger than I think is going to be actually required, slicey slice. Let's say about that. And then, because I need this to fit under a thing, I'm going to leave a little ridge. That. Okay. In fairness, layering is an option. That could look quite cool. What does my reference say? My reference says it's one whole piece. But layering could look quite cool. Don't object to the idea. Now I'm going to treat it like it's just the one piece that I'm adding on. But if I decide later that layering it would be cool, then I'll just do that. So looking at that, I'm literally just going to jam this in here. So that, more like that, more like that. Okay. Now I'm going to tape it and see whether that makes more sense or if I hate it. Why is my phone constantly harassing me today? I don't care. Whatever it is, I don't care. Where did this come from? Down here, right? This was the bit that I didn't need. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, that makes sense. Means that was this bit. Which I'll pin back onto here. Pin this back onto here. There. Okay. Then a little bit extra in under here. Sure, why not? Just for the sake of knowing where everything will sit-ish. Okay. Doesn't look as nice on. Let me see whether it makes more sense on me. Because it probably will. I'm going to bap the mic, I do apologise. Okay, it makes a lot more sense neckline-wise on me. But I am still going to muck around with it. So, I take this. I'm going to say probably more like that. And then here somewhere. Probably something like that. Yeah. I would say that is then considerably better. But maybe I've also got the little beady things. I need to know where those go. Let me consult my book real quick. They do sit sort of in the middle of his chest, so roughly where I've got the mic now, conveniently. So maybe it does need to be lower. Maybe that bit's okay. Maybe all I actually need to do is take that up slightly. Maybe I take this down to here instead. No. On there instead. That looks better. Looks a lot better. Okay. Let's try that. Let's try that. Scissors, come here. I'm gonna say I take it at the one that's closer, the original, because I think it's gonna make sense. Might be the only adjustment this actually needs. Again, I'm going to have to lift the mic out the way as I'm faffing with it, but it looks a lot more like it in relation to my actual chest. Yes. Okay. All right. I think I roll with that. I should have gone the other way around. It's dangerous. All right. It's fine. So I have faffed with it. This is the better iteration compared to the original, which was that. It's hard to tell. Let's do this. Okay. So, still hard to tell. All right, great. Basically, the original was quite a bit wider where the arm comes across, and it was cutting me up, right? So, thinned it down quite a bit in the newer version. Also made it slightly higher in the neckline, and added back a bit of thickness that I'd taken away from the strappy bit. So I think for me, that is going to make a lot more sense because I am slightly smaller. Ah,